I always say if you don't know what you're looking for, then it just makes it so much harder to find. Whereas the clearer you are in terms of what exactly you're looking for, you won't have as many issues when it comes to sourcing deals. So I would say that probably is my biggest step. That the easiest way to source deals initially is to actually not even really think about sourcing. Initially, just to think about, well, what my strategy is. Now, let's just say we have a very clear strategy, which is I'm going to buy 1-bedroom properties and then I'm going to turn them into 2-bedroom properties. Let's just run with that example for the time being. The way I think about it is like a Venn diagram. So imagine you have two circles. You have the circle, which is your strategy. Now we've defined that circle as 1-bedrooms converting into 2-bedrooms. The second circle you need is your area, right? So for example, that could be London, that could be Birmingham, that could be Liverpool, Stevenage, Hertfordshire, anything, right? In order to source properties efficiently, quickly, without burning a lot of your time, what you need to do is you need to find that intersection. I'm trying to like draw these Venn diagrams with my fingers, but you need an intersection of the strategy and the area. And so if I give you a concrete example, if your strategy is to turn 1-bedroom flats into 2-bedroom flats, then zone 1 and zone 2 in London are very good areas because they have a lot of ex-council properties which are very close to stations. So they're in very good areas. And they're also generally a pretty good size. And they always have a separate kitchen. So nowadays, when they build new build flats, the kitchen is always open plan. Whereas if you look at the old flats, they always had the separate kitchen. So now what you can do is you can move the kitchen into the living room, turn the kitchen into the bedroom, and now you have a 2-bedroom flat. So you have a strategy and you have an area where that strategy works. So the intersection, matches perfectly. However, if you take that strategy and you say, I want to turn 1-bedroom flats into 2-bedroom flats in Stevenage, well, Stevenage as an area is predominantly houses. You don't get many flats, and the flats you do get are actually modern flats, which already have an open plan living room. So from a sourcing point of view, now you have a strategy which works, but you don't have an area where that strategy is effective. So when you go into Rightmove, you go into Lendlord, you go into any platform, it's very, very hard to source a deal because you have a disconnect. There's the strategy is not matching up with the area. Whereas if you take a step back and you say, well, what is my strategy? Get that very, very clear, and then spend a bit of time researching areas, looking at, floor plans, looking at type of properties in the area. Is it terrace? Is it semi-detached? And so on and so forth. You'll very quickly work out, well, this strategy works in this area. So if I was to give you a different example, one of the things I'm doing right now is converting houses into flats. If your strategy was converting houses into flats, but your area was, let's say, Knightsbridge, well, there's not many houses in Knightsbridge, and the ones you do have in Knightsbridge, it's not really going to work. Well, it's not that it won't work; it'll just be very expensive, and maybe you don't have the funds to do that. So again, you have the strategy, you have an area, but there's no connect, there's no intersection. So it doesn't really work. Whereas if your strategy is turning houses into flats, and your area was Stevenage is perfect for turning houses into flats because it just has a ton of those properties, 3-bedroom terraced, 40 square meters upstairs, 40 square meter downstairs. You could probably turn like half of Stevenage into flats. Like you really could, because the floor plan just works perfectly. But it doesn't work as well potentially in Knightsbridge. I'm kind of making that up. Maybe it does, but I'm just sort of using that as a hypothetical. I think once you have that clarity of that intersection of area and strategy, sourcing deals will be significantly easier. If you eliminate those two things that I mentioned, the problem becomes, well, where do you even begin sourcing? Like, what are you looking at? What's a good deal? What's a bad deal? Like, what is the strategy there? So I think from sourcing point of view, that's the initial bit. Then, in a second, we'll touch upon how to evaluate a flip deal, how to evaluate a rental deal. And then we can touch on a bit more, and we can sort of start to like layer this a bit more. We can add the third circle of this intersection. So you have area, you have strategy, and then the third circle would be your metrics, right? If you're trying to flip, do you want a 20% margin? Do you want a 15% margin? Do you want a 10% margin? And so already when you have those three circles working together, area, strategy, metrics, it'll just be so much easier to find deals. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I mean, if we have any questions, I'm happy to kind of like go through questions relating to that now, or Abraham, how do you guys want to do it? Questions at the end, or?
Perhaps if you can take, I don't know, 2 questions now, because it looks like we have a problem with the Zoom participants. I'm trying to fix it. So yeah, so if you can take 2 questions now, and then we'll go to the demo.
Yeah. So any questions just on, or do you want me to clarify anything when it comes to this intersection of, you know, area, strategy? Okay, so how do you pick the strategy in the first place? Okay, how do you pick the strategy? There's 2 really main ways of doing it. The first one is you can base it on your level of experience. So what you can do is you can line up all the strategies, and I'm trying to be as methodical as possible, because I just feel like that's the easiest way to sort of rationalize it in your head. So imagine you had a scale, right, for like a spectrum, and you line up all the strategies from easiest to hardest. So for example, turning a 1-bedroom into a 2-bedroom is very easy. You don't need planning permission. There's no real development and those sort of things. So it's very easy. Then the next one could be turning a house into 2 flats. You need planning permission. There's a bit more development, so it's slightly harder. The one after that could be a commercial conversion. One after that could be like a land development. So you can line up all these strategies. And one way you can think about picking the strategy is, well, how confident do I feel? How much experience do I have? And then pick based on that. So for example, you can say, well, I don't really understand property too well. I'm just a beginner. And so the 1 into 2 is the easiest way to sort of build some confidence, get going, make some progress. And then down the line, I can worry about converting houses and converting buildings and those sort of things. So that would be one way of doing it. The other way to do it would be to, work out essentially what your goal is. So do you want to hold properties for the long term, or do you want to make lump sums by flipping property? Because if your aim is, well, I want to hold property for the long term, for 10 years, for 20 years, then ideally you need a strategy whereby, the rental calculations are going to make sense, right? So let me give you a concrete example, because sometimes abstract doesn't really help. If your strategy is, well, I want to buy and hold property. And so, one way you can do that really effectively is you buy a property, let's say a house, you add a lot of value by turning it into 2 flats, and then you refinance onto a buy-to-let mortgage at the end. So you bought, you've added value, then you refinance, and when you refinance, you get a ton of your money back because the value has gone up. Now, that is based on your strategy being a strategy where you hold properties for the long term, right? Now, if you think about it, if you then had a strategy whereby you're buying houses in Knightsbridge to turn into flats, what's going to happen is at the end, even though you will have added value, the flats in Knightsbridge are going to be so expensive that the stress test rental calculation is not going to add up. You will be able to refinance, but maybe at 50% loan to value. Whereas properties which are cheaper in Hertfordshire, you can refinance at 75% loan to value. So in order to recycle your money back out, ideally you want to be in an area where you're not getting hammered by the stress test calculations. By the way, if this is becoming a bit too technical, just message in the comments and I can try to break it down further. I'm just not fully sure in terms of everyone watching, where you are currently with your property journey. Are we all starting out, or do we have some properties? Actually, that would be very useful as well. If you can put in the chat, where you are, do you have no properties currently? Are you already, do you have maybe 2 or 3 properties? Maybe just put in the chat, where everyone is, already have some.
And Ahmed, I think that we can now go to the demo.
Okay, analysis, none currently, not sure how it is convert back though. Yeah, sorry, Albert, let me just finish this 10-second thing and then we'll run to the demo. So okay, fine. So it seems like people have some experience. So yeah, just in terms of picking strategy, my final comment on that was, if your strategy is to flip, Knightsbridge works perfectly. And by the way, I'm using extreme examples here. Buy an expensive house in Knightsbridge, add a ton of value by turning into flats, and then flip it. Amazing margins, great. If your plan is to hold property, well, you can add a lot of value in Knightsbridge, but you're going to get hammered on the refinance because of the stress testing. So it's probably not the best strategy from a hold point of view. So it's really a case of looking at it a few different ways, looking at the spectrum and picking easy to hard, or looking at your strategy and based on your goals, how much money you have, and then picking a strategy, you know, where all those metrics are going to add up, which we'll go through, I guess now anyway. Straight to the point. Great. I have some vitalists and based on Hampshire. Cool.
I think just like to use the time, just I think now let's start with the demo, and then in the end we'll have time for more, if that's okay with you. All right. So now let's try to do it actually live. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll go back to Lendlord, and I will. So usually, you know, you can start with the property sourcing tabs, and then you can, you know, use the filters, you know, tenant type. You can search by mean guide price to max guide price, number of bedrooms, the property type, etc. And then or location, of course, and you can use here to filter any address or postcode or city. Then after you find the property, you can click on it, then you can get more information about the property. You can see the finance you can get from Lendlord on this property. And if you click place bid, it will take you to the auction house website, so you can review it there and even place a bid. And then you go to the deal analyzer. So in the bottom, you can see the rental analysis, the flip analysis. So you can click adjust. Once you click adjust, it will take you to the deal analyzer. So in the deal analyzer, first, after you put the address, you will get some information about the property, what is the property types, the current EPC level, the energy performance certificate, the size, and some data about the postcode in terms of average yield and 5-year growth. And then basically you need to start tweaking the data to understand the first year metrics and the long-term metrics. And you can also run different scenarios. So now I want to start something from scratch. So, Ahmed, we basically prepared the specific deal that we want to analyze. So let's start with typing the address. So I think yes, I have it on the chat. So you want to to say a few words about the property.
Yeah. So I thought it would be very helpful to essentially look at one property and look at it from a rental point of view and the same property from a flip point of view. I think the reason that's useful is because if let's say your strategy is you want to make lump sums of money and you want to flip a property, right? We don't really know where the economy is going to be in 12 months time and if it's going to be a viable market from a flipping point of view. So if you have a deal which works from a flip and a rental point of view, at least that way you can then just rent out the property for the next 12 months, 24 months, whatever that period is. Buy yourself some time. I think maybe we have to put everyone on mute and then do it that way. Sorry, yeah, I was just saying, even if you want to flip property, right? At the end of the day, if it would, in an ideal world, the more exits you can have, the better, because if something happens in the economy or you can't flip the property or there's delays, at least you have the option to rent the property out in the short-term future, and then down the line, you can flip the property. Whereas if you're in a situation where the property only works from a flip point of view and doesn't work from a rental point of view, it's not so much so that it's an issue, it's just you're exposing yourself to more risk. Because if something happens with a flip and the market turns and there's no buyers on the back end, and you're in a market where it's a bit of a buyer's market and where people are making much lower offers, making silly offers, then you can get stung. So I thought it would be helpful to basically evaluate one deal from both perspectives, so at least you have maximum options, and then we can go about it that way. Now,
Right.
Everett, do you want me to share my screen, or are you sharing yours?
Yeah, I just wanted to take the address. Basically, we're speaking about this property in this area. So you can see I just typed enter the address, and then I received the information about this property and some information about the postcode.
Mm-hmm.
Now the first step is to take care of the purchase details. So so Ahmed, what would be the purchase price?
Yeah. So the price is 250. It's on for 250.
250.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is the what you estimate the current property value in the current condition of the property? Is it above? Is it less?
Yeah, I think 250 is reasonable. However, if you want to really use all the tools for Lendlord, I think what I would say is I wouldn't pay 250 for it. I would offer like maybe 220, 230. So maybe we should base the purchase price on 225 and leave the value as 250. Because
Okay.
it is a buyer's market, and I'll try to get some sort of discount for sure.
Yeah, we can run some. So let's try to run property online valuation. So if this postcode, the property type is flat.
Correct.
You know the construction
It's
period?
yeah, it's a mansion block, so it's pre-1914.
And in meters to be 64.
I mean, based on the floor plan, it's 61, but 64 is close enough. They might on the EPC is probably 64, so that's probably accurate.
Bedrooms, bathrooms.
So it's currently a 1-bedroom property, but what I would like to do is I would probably turn it into a 2-bed, but we can leave it as one, for the rental example.
I want to just on the current market
Oh,
value.
current is one. Yeah, current is one.
So high, the interior finish quality.
I would say average.
Average.
Yeah, average is fine.
Although there is any outdoor space, balcony.
Okay, it's a flat, right? So there's huge, but communal, right? They're not technically private, but they are communal gardens. So I guess that's none.
Yeah, I would say none. And off-street parking spaces.
It comes with one space.
One, okay. Then I click estimate, and we will see the owner valuation. Of course, it's not 100% accurate, but it can give you some indication about the current property. So it's more conservative now, but perhaps if we increase it too high, then you will get.
I mean, that's pretty reasonable because so I live in Stevenage. This property is in Stevenage. If this was a normal standard 1-bedroom property, that's actually pretty spot on, 195. This one just happens to be, and I'll send a link in the chat actually, so you can sort of see the pictures and those sort of things, which will maybe make it a bit clearer in terms of what we're looking at here. Abraham, if you want to pull this up, so people can get an idea of the type of deal it is.
Yeah. Let me see. Okay.
So just to sort of like talk about the tool for a sec, 190 is actually very accurate. It's just if you look at this building, it's a mansion block with huge fields next to it. So of course there's going to be a bit of a premium compared to your box standard 1-bedroom property, right? It comes with a ton of parking, huge gardens, mansion block. It's always going to go for a premium. Plus, this is actually in the best part of Stevenage. It's in the old town. Whereas I think property data, because it's pulling data of Stevenage, 190 I think as a base, as a benchmark, highly accurate. Then you have to sort of take it up or down based on your specific case.
Gotcha. All right, so let's keep it 250. What would be the rental income?
So the property is actually currently tenanted. So this is a buy-to-let property. Is currently tenanted for 1,050 per month.
150, yes.
Correct.
All right. Then when you purchase it, so if it's your additional property, you will pay this amount as stamp duty. Then let's take care of the closing costs. You click advance, then there's some legal fees to purchase the property. I don't know, let's put 1,200 or.
That's it. 1,200 seems reasonable.
Inspection cost, I don't know, 500 or ish. And you can always put some buffers to be on the safe side. And then refurb cost. So
yeah, if we look at the pictures, it really doesn't require one. I mean, if you look at the pictures very quickly, it's in pretty good condition. So I would say it's fairly modern. I wouldn't say it even really needs one.
Looks so let's say that if you need to do version, I would put here, and you can also add specific if you want I don't know, roof repair, you can put all the costs here, and then it will be basically a great place to put all the costs associated. On flip project, of course, it's even more important. All right, so the total purchase cost will be 233, and usually it will be higher than the purchase price. So we need to take into account the stamp duty and the legal cost, the other costs. If you do some refurb, everything should be taken into account. So like already now you can see the first year metrics and the long-term metrics, but let's continue first. So now let's talk about cash investment and loan, so mortgage. So if you take it to the 75% loan to value, then the money you need to put down for deposit 25%, but the cash investment will be higher because you need more cash for the other costs, the stamp duty and the closing costs. So the lender for a mortgage will take a look on the lower between the purchase price and the property value, and you will get 75% out of it as a loan. Then if, yeah, the default interest rate is 5, but you can click on this. So based on your profile, Lendlord will search mortgage products for you. So let's take this one, the mortgage works. By the way, when you look at the mortgage products, you need to pay attention to the fees as well.
This is crazy fees. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that? For buy to let, this is the fee?
So look, yes, depends on the product. So lender that will give you very low rate, the fees might be higher, So you need to take it into account. This is a 2 years fix, if I'm not mistaken, so you can change the period, of course. But if you, for instance, if you order by the lowest fee, you can see there are products with lower fees, but it's a trade-off, the lender fees and the interest rate. So you will pay more on a monthly basis. So you just need to decide. So let's take something in the middle. I will take this product, for instance. You click select, then it will take it to the deal analyzer, and it will take also the fees, and it will see the impact on your results. Ahmed, usually will take interest only. I think this is like the yes. Yep. But if not, you can change to capital interest and see how it also impact your the first in long term. Usually it will definitely impact your short-term cash flow. So cash might be even negative because you need also to repay some of the capital. But if you look at it just interest only, then you can see also positive cash on cash for the short term. All right, so then let's first speak about the operating expenses. Ahmed, usually you would use a managing agent or you would manage it by yourself, or
I self-manage, but I think a lot of people do use agents. So I think a 10% fee seems fair. A service charge, well, I guess a service charge would be paid by the tenant in this situation and everything else. So I guess we don't already have that. I think the only thing we'd have to pay is the ground rent as the landlord. I think the ground rent, I think it was like £10 a month or something in this. So it's not anything significant. And yeah, insurance again, £30 a month. Yeah, probably not that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And perhaps you can put some buffer, for maintenance.
Yeah. Percentage.
So the analyzer will calculate as a monthly cost. Okay, and then the last thing is the long-term assumptions. Okay, so here we take the defaults from the postcode. So this is the property appreciation for the next 10 years. So basically we are now analyzing the deal for the next 10 years. And then you have the rent appreciation, your estimation, and of course the inflation that actually now is much higher in the UK. That will definitely impact your costs for the long term. So what would you put here? And we can use different scenarios. So this is the default scenario, and we can add best case scenario and worst case scenario. And of course you have the occupancy rate, that is like how much vacancy you will have on this property.
Oh yeah, all the voids. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that the 3.7% annual appreciation, of course, that's coming from data, so that's probably more accurate. I think sometimes maybe because the bias says you'd think, well, hell, maybe it'll appreciate more and those sort of things. But I do always say that if that's what the data suggests, that's what the data suggests, right? Whereas I can be optimistic and say, well, maybe the economy will improve and maybe this will happen and maybe that will happen. But at the end of the day, this is probably plugging years and years of worth of data. So I would rather leave it to that rather than, increase it and make it artificially high, only to then realize, well, actually, we're not going to hit those numbers. So I think the more conservative you can be with the analysis, probably the better. So let's stick with the 3.5%.
All right. Rent appreciate like would you increase?
Let's hit 3% on the rent. I mean, especially right now, it's probably a lot more than 3% how rents are going. But yeah, 3% doesn't seem unreasonable.
And inflation, I think for 10 years, basically it's an average. If 10% would be a disaster, so I would still keep it as 5 or 6, you know, as an average for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the occupancy rate, you know, 92% means that 1 month every year they will be avoided.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I don't think it's the reasonable assumption. So I would put, I don't know, what do we say?
Yeah, I think, you know, that kind of like depends on, you know, where you are as well, right, and how competitive the market is. But you know, when it comes to, let's just say, central London, and you know, especially the rental market right now, it's very buoyant, so there's no real issues. I mean, even this property, I think it's been tenanted continuously by the same tenant for like 2 years now. So, you know, depending on how long, depending on the market, I guess if a tenant's in there for 2 years, you have 100% occupancy for 2 years. But at the same time, maybe someone leaves and you wait a few weeks to put someone new in. I think 95% seems a reasonable assumption, you know, on average.
All right. Now, what you can do is to add different scenarios. So if we do the worst case, so let's say occupancy only, I don't know, 90, under appreciation only 1, rent appreciation 2, and under inflation 9. Okay, then you can see the impact on your metrics, and of course the long-term metrics in terms of ROI, the IRI, the internal rate of return, the equity multiple, etc. And then you can also define a best case scenario. And then let's say you have 98, 5 or even 6% property appreciation, I don't know, 7% rent. Tell me if you want to change something, Ahmed. And then
yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, you know, in terms of annual appreciation, you know, if we put in 8%, so yeah, let's start with 8%. Let's see what that pops out.
And then of course you can see like the difference.
Maybe
then
increase,
yeah, and then you can just play with it to see.
Yeah, like where would it roughly fit?
Yeah, and then we can go to the prospect report to get all the details and the development of the value of the property based on your assumptions over the years, and the development of the cash flow. And part of our premium plan, you can also export the report. Usually, Ahmed, at this point, I would go to the postcode information page, also to check out the postcode in terms of the 5-year capital growth, the property demand in the area. Is it a seller market or buyer market? How many properties are now for sale, and other important details. Some statistics about crime, the current rental demand, how easy it is to let this property out, price per square foot, and some details about demographics. So you can see the distribution of voting in terms of politics, commute method, age distribution, and then also some data about schools in the area. And the postcode list does not we don't get it for all postcodes. Data about the council tax and if there is a flood risk. So this is how do you usually do your due diligence on the postcode?
Yeah,
how important?
Yeah, so you know, kind of go back to when I pick my strategy and then work out areas where that strategy, you know, kind of works. I think it's very useful to look at, you know, all this sort of data and work out the crime rates and the schooling and those sort of things. But if you're very familiar with an area, then you also have like a lot of intuition, right? You kind of understand what the area is like, what kind of, you know, market there is. So, for example, you know, right now with Stevenage, it is becoming more and more of a commuter town because it's so close to central London. It's 21 minutes in. So and the property I'm looking at is down the road from a very big hospital. It's actually a teaching hospital. It's huge. So the data, of course, has its place and is very important. And then I think what I would couple the data with is just an understanding of the area as well. So I know there's a hospital nearby, so this property is in the ideal location from a rental point of view. And the data will probably back that up as well, depending on how close you go into that exact area. Yeah, kind of like you just pull this up here. So I think, yeah, it's really, no, this is a London postcode. It's taken.
Yeah, I took this is the one,
Yeah, it's reset it. Yeah, so that's what I would have a look at. I would use the data to sort of like back up my conclusions, and but also use intuition and just using my understanding of the area to kind of work out what kind of market there is and those sort of things.
Yeah. All right.
There we go. Yeah.
It's this that
Okay. Well, it was number 6.
Yeah. I think that it didn't identify it from Google, but I think this is the deal. Yeah, this is the data that we entered.
Yep.
I
think you're just going on the map.
Yeah. So on the prospect report, you can go to the Google map.
Yeah, there you go. Even if you didn't do the pin, and if you just looked on the top of that screen where it says Leicester Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just press, yeah, there we go. Right above you can see this Leicester Hospital, which is one of the big hospitals in the area. Well, in Hertfordshire already. So it's really a case of kind of looking at this map view, seeing what's around, what type of market it is. And I think the other data you had, can you just go back on the data in terms of transport? I thought that was very useful.
Yeah.
It was showing how people transport in the area.
It takes some time.
With cars and with everything else. I think that'd be interesting to see. Commute method.
1 second.
Even in terms of appreciation, just while that loads, if you scroll to the top now, of course, 19 and 20, COVID years, of course, the growth wasn't wasn't great by any means. And in the last few years, there has been a lot higher growth. So when you look at a 5-year average, I think.
But how do you see now still this area is growing toward in 2023 as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it definitely is, purely because of the whole commuter town aspect. So here we go. Yeah, see, yeah, if you look at cars, what's the subset of cars? Did it say? How much are just cars?
Car
So like car drivers, I'd say.
No, car drivers 62.
So yeah, 38% of people in Stevenage don't have cars, right? So now if you're developing flats, or if you're buying properties to rent out as flats, then you can kind of put 2 and 2 together, which is that the data shows almost half of almost 40% of Stevenage doesn't even have cars. So from a flats point of view, it's ideal because they don't really need parking. They probably want to be in the key locations anyway, so it's ideal. Now, if the data showed that every single person was a car driver in Stevenage, and you had a flat which had no parking, that would be an issue, because now you have flats, you're trying to rent out, people have cars, but yet no one can park anywhere. So yeah, it's really a case of knowing the area well, just yourself, and looking at stuff like this. I didn't realize it was that high, that 38%, were not car drivers, but that also to some degree doesn't surprise me because of how many flats they're building, and those people don't need cars.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Aviram?
Yes.
There's a good question here for the newbies. If you can explain the terms used in the metrics. What is everything, every metric?
I just want to be minded to the time. We don't have a lot of time, so perhaps we can do something quick. Ahmed, let me know if you want also to comment on. So on the first year metric, so we have, of course, the net annual cash flow. So this is takes the entire rental income. Usually, this is the income that you get from this property minus all the monthly operating expenses and the loan costs, and this will be your cash flow. In brackets, you have the monthly, and the main number is for the entire year. Cash on cash. So this is the net cash flow on your cash investment. So in this case, we needed to invest around 67K. So what is basically the return on this 67K? Ahmed, by the way, for this specific deal, I see like it's very, the cash on cash is very low. I don't know if we are now on the, we're on the default scenario. Is it something that you okay with usually when you, like if you look at the buy to let property? So you look for the long term or how you basically take?
Yeah, so kind of like I said at the start, I don't really buy properties just to rent out. I buy properties, I add a lot of value, I refinance a big chunk of my money, and then I rent them out, right? So now, obviously, in this equation is saying that the money, the cash investment is something like £66,000. I think the way I would do it, my cash investment at the end would be something like £15,000. Because I would refinance so much of my money once the value was added. So then obviously the cash on cash would significantly increase because my cash input is so much lower by the end of the project. So like everyone said right at the start of the call, with bridging finance, I would use bridging finance to buy the property, add value, then get a buy to let mortgage. So my cash on cash increases significantly.
Yeah, so you speak about the BRR method. So basically you purchase the property with bridging finance or with cash, but of course it's better to take to leverage if you can. And then you do the renovation, refurbishment, increase the value of the property, and then get refinance. With the refinance, you can basically repay the bridging loan and also reduce your cash investment, basically.
It's possible to transfer the bridging loan to buy to let term in the same lender, or
there are very few lenders that they have this product, but usually it's two different applications.
Okay.
Yes, you will need to start like a new application to refinance the property, usually with a different lender, but there are other lenders that will do both. So then, perhaps we can touch on the flip. We are working on a BRR analyzer as well. So hopefully we'll release it soon. So just complete the metrics.
I was just going to say with the metrics, I think what's very helpful is these the information icons. I think if you hover over them, it does give you a pretty good breakdown of what the metrics are, and so that might be useful if someone hasn't already seen that before.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, and of course the gross yield and net yield. Gross yield is on the entire purchase costs, and this is the rental income only. So this is the gross yield. That's just rental income, no expenses on the purchase cost. The net yield we calculate as the net cash flow on the entire purchase costs. And then you have the first year ROI, but this is high because we estimated the value as higher. So basically, when you bought the property, you already made some profit. And we have the cap rate. Many investors look at it, but I think that because we don't have time, we can either release a video on all of those metrics. What is by the main KPI you look at, Ahmed, when you analyze deal? If you look at
I look at stuff like the cash on cash, purely because with everything else in terms of appreciation, I don't really pay too much attention on the appreciation because my long-term play is to hold the property ideally forever. And so it doesn't really benefit me too much to look at appreciation in 5 years, 10 years, because even in 10 years, I'm not really planning on selling. I'm just planning on holding forever. So what impacts me in the short term is, well, if I buy, add value, refinance, and I'm £20,000 invested, then what is the return I'm going to make on my £20,000? Beyond that, the appreciation and everything else I see as a huge bonus because of the fact that we're in the UK rental market. But that is the main thing I would personally look at.
All right, so let's just use 5 more minutes just to go on to speak about the flip deal. So if we take the same property, we're going to flip it. Okay, so the flip analyzer can access from the menu under the deal analyzer flip. It's the same. You will get the property information, and then the purchase details, the purchase price. So we say that we are going to purchase in 225. Stamp duty,
Yep.
Okay, refurb cost. So
Yep. So
what,
yeah, so what I would typically do here is, my plan with the 1-bedroom properties is normally to convert into 2-bedroom properties. If you were to self-manage the refurb, and I think for the sake of this example, we'll just keep the number simple. If you count £20,000 and you were to self-manage, you can get it done for that much relatively easily.
but of course, that if you want to break down all the costs, you can do it here.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to break it down to kitchens, bathrooms, materials, labor, I guess you could, but I'm just sensitive to time.
Yeah, great.
Actually.
Then let's add some the closing costs. Let's do the same. Okay, so the total investment in this property, including the refurbishment, will be 253. Then let's speak about cash investment loan. So here you will need to take bridging finance.
Correct.
What is like you will take the maximum loan to value, Ahmed?
Yeah, I'll take the maximum loan to value. I mean, typically in the market, I'll get a gross loan of 75%. So
yeah,
this is gross or net.
75. I would increase it, I think, a bit. Okay.
Everything else, yeah, 1% arrangement, maybe 2% arrangement, depending on the product at the time. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, totally. I think yeah, I'm not sure if it's it's the 2% here. Okay. During the project, just during the project, it's not the BRR model switch. This flip analyzer will just tell you how much you will get if you sell the property. So you will need to pay the insurance, but I'm not sure that you will have any other main,
Yeah, I suppose you'll have some utilities like electric and stuff. So maybe just put in, I don't know, it's only a tiny property, 150, £200. Yeah, it's not huge.
All right.
Won't have maintenance, won't have really any other cost. We already accounted for that. So now, funnily enough, actually 4 or 5 years ago, a 2-bedroom was sold, in the building for 320. So if we same size, not as good condition, and so let's just factor in 320. Agent commission 1%. Any other cost? Well, you might have some legal costs, but I guess we've already put that into closing.
That's just in case I will put more.
Yeah.
And what is important is the length of the project. So you can see that. So on top of the page, you will see the gross profit, the net profit, but then the length of the project will impact because you have a bridging loan that is usually much more expensive than every month count. So if you complete it early, your profit will go up, of course. But if you take it to
I think maybe we assume 8 months because it won't take much to refurb, and then let's say it takes a couple of months to sell the property. I think 8 months is reasonable for a project like this. So yeah, you have the metrics there. I guess gross profit 48. I think we put basically everything in that needs to be input.
Okay. So and then you said that usually you will look to refinance and then perhaps let it out. Or you will choose between both trade-offs.
Yeah, I mean, earlier I was just mentioning that even if someone here is looking to flip properties, I think they're much better off flipping a property something like this, where just in case something happens, on the back end, and at least you have a backup that you can just refinance, hold up for a few years and then rent out. If you're in a situation where you develop something which just doesn't work on a refinance, the only option you have is to sell. And as Abraham just mentioned, bridging finance is very expensive. Every month that you're holding on to that property, it's costing you a lot of money. So Abraham, if you just do this 8-month thing, and let's just increase it to 16 months, you'll see how much the profit is going to come down by.
Also, the interest for bridging, like when we originate bridging loan, we use it for 12 months. And there are lenders that might look for a longer term, but if you go to 16 months, there is a chance you are now in a default rate.
Of course, I'm just saying theoretically that sensitive that every single month is just adding.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if it will be even more, in terms of the debt side of the project, we'll have more costs. So so you're totally right.
So you can exit earlier with the bridge loan. Let's say you put 12 and you exit after 8.
Normally, bridge loan is pro rata. So if you pay early, then you don't have to pay for the full duration. You just pay for the months you use the finance.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. We do have like 3 months minimum. So after 3 months, there are no penalties, and you can repay the loan with no penalties. We have a product that also we encourage our users, our customers, to repay the loan. So you get lower interest rate if you repay it after 3 months, then it will be higher after 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months.
What do you mean by your product?
So Lendlord, we have a platform, but we also have a bridging product. So we also we act also as a lender for.
Okay. So it's not a broker only. It's so okay.
We have 2 different services.
I see. Okay, so you have the finance and you have the.
And yes, we can help with bridging finance, and also we can help with the refinance.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Ahmed, I think that we are above in terms of time. But perhaps if we have questions, I don't know if you have a few more minutes, Ahmed.
That's good.
If people want to say.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions.
Right.
So if you want to just put them in the chat, or whatever works.
All right, are there questions that we didn't answer? So we can select some of them and then we can answer. So I see some questions. Does Lendlord analyze the BRR investment? So as I mentioned, we are working it. Hopefully we will release it by the end of Q1. Let's see if we have any others. Does this cover every part of the UK property market? So I'm not sure that we have data for that. I think it's like the vast majority of the locations it should take into account if you speak about the APIs that we use. Okay.
There's some questions on platforms. The platform.
Can we just ask the questions?
Yeah, ask. Feel free.
When I see a property, it's a bridging option available. With the blue line. So it's also a buy-to-let option.
If there are yes, so basically when you look at the deal analyzer for rental deal, then yes, you will get buy-to-let products, and you can see other products as well if you click on more. And then if you want to look at, just switch to the tab of bridge deal, and then you see the initial rate. But then if you want the entire terms, you need to click proceed and fill in.
And how you get to this? How you get to this page, to this tab?
Just click on bridge deal. So finance deal, bridge deal. Okay, and this is when you click on finance this deal.
I see. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay.
All right. Okay. Does
how they make
stamp duty for purchases and capital gains when selling? There are many changes. Okay, so we are trying to keep up with the changes in terms of stamp duty. So I think it should be accurate based on the newest rules. In terms of gains tax, I think that on the flip analyzer, we don't take it now into account. So on top of your profit, you need to take into account the gains tax, but we can definitely look to edit. So you will have this data as well.
Yeah, and I guess it would just depend on personal, limited company, those sort of factors.
Yes, Sian, you want to ask a question?
Oh, you're on mute, by the way.
You're on mute, Sian. You're on mute, Sian.
Am I okay? Can you hear me all right now?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Avram. Hi, Ahmed. It was tons of information there. Really, it is very timely as well. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I asked in the comment section that when you are calculating the capital appreciation, is the inflation taken into account? Just quick one first, please. In London, it sounds so low. Is it normal?
So basically on the deal analyzer, you need to put the two different data items. You need to put your estimation for the property appreciation and the inflation. So because the property appreciation from the one side, the inflation will impact your results from the other side.
Okay. So the inflation is taken into account if you take it, if you put, yeah?
Yeah. So sorry, it was the rent appreciation. This is the inflation. Annual inflation. It's basically you need to put the average for the next 10 years.
Okay.
Your estimation. But as we showcase, you can use worst case scenario, best case scenarios. You can put high rate of inflation and low rate of inflation and see how it impacts your metrics.
Okay, it is for Ahmed. Really, you made a very good point. While you are doing flipping, for instance, you have to have a clear strategy while you are getting into deal. I think this is a very good point. Lately, I was trying to do some deals on creative strategies like purchase lease option, considerations, delayed options, assisted sales. These kind of these really it is, I think, is very ideal since the finance is becoming very expensive nowadays. But we are trading this with expensive finance like bridging loan. How do you see, especially in this kind of circumstances or environment, either using these creative options or bridging loan? Which do you have any preferences or do you have any suggestions, advice, etc.? Please.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to credit strategies, lease options, option agreements, delayed completions, anything along those lines, I would say what I said earlier, which is really a case of having a strategy and an area where they work perfectly together, right? So if you take something like a lease option, it's very, very hard to do a lease option or a exchange with delayed completion in central London or in the southeast because property prices are rising. It's very hard to convince someone that let's lock in the price now and then I will buy this down the line, right? That's very hard to do. Whereas if you take that strategy and you go to an area, maybe somewhere slightly further up north where an area was badly affected with negative equity after 2008, maybe people are more willing to give you those options. And so as a result, you'll have a lot more luck. But, whereas if you're in the wrong area with a strategy, then it might be a bit pointless. That's one thing to have a think about. Then the second thing in terms of the finances, well, if you're doing, depending on the strategy, if you're doing like lease options, you still have to work out what your exit is because if your strategy is to take over someone's mortgage, and you're going to hold out for the long term, then that will be cheaper than bridging finance, because bridging finance generally is very, very expensive. Whereas if your strategy was that you were going to buy something to, develop, then of course you would need bridging finance. So it's not really a case of one or the other. It would be a case of, well, which one is more suitable for that particular strategy. For development, it has to be bridging. For long-term hold, ideally stick to the buy-to-lets.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I might add perhaps ideally if you can use both of them, if you can get the control of the property, let's say by assisted sale, and also if you can get some finance on bridging loan, you don't have to pay anything at all. You can cover your refurbishment cost, I guess. Yeah.
So if you, for example, let's say, you did like a lease option or something and you took over someone's mortgage, I guess, and you were then to, develop the property out, you can use bridging for the development and use this buy-to-let mortgage for holding. So you could have that split. But again, in terms of the for the bridge, I guess you would have to speak to the bridging lender and see what they're comfortable with, because there might be a bit of a security issue since they won't have security over the property necessarily, because it's going to have a first charge with the mortgage lender.
Yeah, that would be an issue, of course. Yeah.
As long
All
as,
right, thank you very much.
yeah, so as long as you can offer maybe a secondary charge, I don't know if that would work or if that wouldn't work, but yeah, speak to a broker and see if you
It
can
is for Avram then. Perhaps he might be able to help. Would they accept the second charge? Usually they insist on first charge, I guess. Avram, is he frozen?
Yeah, I think he's frozen. I don't think he's looking down for that.
He can't hear. I think it will be ideal. Okay. Or anyone else, perhaps Sarah, can inter. Oh, Avram, I was asking your assistant there. Are you insisting on first charge when you are lending, or you can do second charge on properties as well? If you are asking for development loan, for instance.
So no, we are now these days we are looking only on first charge. Like second charge is currently.
I thought so.
We will.
Sorry, you were frozen. I asked the question, so it is hanging up there. So okay, we caught up. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
We can consider a second charge if it's like a second security, but like in general, I think like as a lender, lender will want to see the borrower put some money down. Like I think it's very hard to get funding the entire deal with loans, and also I think it's not healthy for the borrower, the property investor. Leveraging is good while you use also your cash, as Ahmed mentioned it so he will put some amount of cash and then he will take it out at some point. But very good investors understand that they need the cash in order to get going, like they have the flexibility, and also in terms of cost, because bridging is expensive. So I think as a lender also, lenders will want to see the borrowers put money down. If you do it like in a good strategy, then of course you can release some equity, then get cash back, and then invest more.
Our bridging is expensive, I accept, but especially in this kind of environment, we need more bridging, more finance, because there are so many deals there. In the past, landlords or estate agents were very reluctant to agree a deal because they know the prices will be going up. But nowadays they are panicking. Once you make an offer, you have extra leverage to get the discount, 10%, 15%. So I think we can use this environment for our advantages. And also I have noticed, I put a couple of offers lately. The survey is coming up with usually lower valuations.
Yes, there are now
Do you have any solution? What kind of solution you offered? They offered 2 times 60% of the value of the properties. 60, will you be able to help?
60, I think it's quite aggressive, but I think that surveyors now more cautious, perhaps, or more conservative. But we didn't see it like this dramatic reduction in property value. And as I can see, also there are some areas that's still growing. But Sian, we have another question from Colin Powell.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, unless Colin, are you with us?
Yes, I'm still with you. Thank you. Ahmed, a question for you, and thank you for your presentation. It's really good. You were saying about increasing a property from 1 to 2 bedrooms, for example. When you are doing it, are you increasing the value of the actual house, or is that for rental purposes, or both?
Both. So for example,
sorry, one more thing on the question, without increasing any square space as well. You're not increasing any space.
Yeah, there's no space increase. So I'll say 2 things on that. That's probably like the #1 common objection I get, when it comes to this strategy. So if you think about it, the last one I did was I bought a 1-bedroom flat in West Hampstead for £303,000, turned into a 2-bedroom flat by moving a kitchen. 6 months later, it was revalued at £450,000. So that's a 50% appreciation in 6 months by moving a kitchen around. Put simply. But there's no square footage increase. Now, if you think about it this way, Now, let's say you have a 1-bedroom flat anywhere and it's 100 square meters, right? And you have another 1-bedroom flat, which is 50 square meters. I'm willing to bet any money that the one which is 100 square meters is not going to be valued twice as much as the 50 square meters, because at the end of the day, you have to look at the utility of the property as well. No one wants a 100 square meter 1-bedroom property, right? So it's not that square footage has nothing to do with it. It's a case of looking at the square footage and looking at the utility of the apartment. So what happens is, West Hampstead, I got it for 303 as a 1-bed, revalued at 450. But now the next, for example, it's not that 2-bedroom flats in West Hampstead are 250. They're even more. Like, for example, the comparables were about 550, but they were slightly bigger. So what happens from a valuation point of view, it gets valued somewhere in between a 1-bed and a 2-bed. So it's more than a 1-bed, but it's slightly less than what a normal 2-bed would be, because it is at the same time smaller. So I'm not arguing the case that suddenly it's going to be valued exactly the same as a 2-bedroom, but it will be valued significantly higher than a 1-bedroom, because you have to look at the utility and the fact that there is another room. The second thing I was going to say was, the reason this works is, I've kind of thought about this for a while. When you're doing developments in an ideal world, if you think about it, what you want to do is add the highest amount of value for the lowest amount of cost, right? Because if you add a lot of value and it costs you a lot of money, then there's no real profit in that. So what is the way you can add the most value with the least amount of cost? And I think it is by, reconfiguring flats, right? Or houses. So for example, because if you reconfigure a 1-bed into a 2-bed, all you have to do is move a kitchen. There's no development. There's no build. There's no extension. There's no foundation. There's nothing. Same with if you buy a 2-bedroom house, reconfigure upstairs and turn into a 3-bedroom house, all you've done is move a couple partition walls around, and suddenly there's a huge value add. To get this similar value add, normally you would have to do extensions, loft conversions, spend 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. And so you're not getting as much of an appreciation per pound spent. I'm trying to maximize appreciation per pound spent. And in my opinion, that's one really good, low risk way of doing it. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. I think that we will take only one more question, if that's okay.
There's a couple in the chat which I can quickly go through.
Yeah. So just go. Let's just do a brief overview on the chat.
Okay, I'll just answer these last three very, very quickly in like a minute. So what's your view on the London buy-to-let market, especially central areas? I'm a big believer in central London as a whole. I think it will stand the test of time. London is one of the it's a financial hub, it's a tourist hub. From an educational point of view, it has the best universities in the world. So I really can't see how over the years London will go down in value. I just can't see it, especially the fact that London has no more space, right? Like there's literally no land to build more things. They keep building in different pockets, like Battersea, they build some stuff and those sort of things. And so supply is not going to increase by that much, but the popularity of London is always going to remain, in my personal opinion. So I'm a big believer. The only thing you have to worry about is the stress testing on, like Abraham said, the leverage is what you need to kind of think about, that you don't want to be too leveraged that your calculations don't add up. But as a rental market in the long term, big believer. Now, the second thing, what is the minimum square footage you're allowed for a 2-bedroom apartment? The word allowed doesn't really apply here, because technically this is a conversion. And so there's no space standard rules, because you're not building from scratch. You're simply just converting the space. So there is no allowed allowance here. I'd say aim for like more than 45 square meters for a 1-bed to then turn into a 2-bed, but there's no official, rules there. Is it a challenge to move kitchens when converting a 2-bed? No, not really. All you have to do is move the new kitchen to a room which is adjacent to the old kitchen or adjacent to the old bathroom. Because then what happens is the pipe work, have I got a floor plan? I don't. The pipe work is just in the next room, and you just divert the pipes from the room next door into the new kitchen, and it's very, very easy. Would conversion of a garage into additional bedroom be reasonable value? Yeah, you can convert the garage into a bedroom, into a living room. And sometimes what happens is with garages, they have nothing above them. So you can easily extend on top of the garage and convert the garage. Now you go from a 3-bedroom property to a 5-bedroom property, and there's a huge value add. But again, see, that requires construction. Moving a kitchen around requires like nothing. So not to say that that's a bad strategy, but I'm sort of just comparing, different examples. So I hope, that rapid fire kind of helped.
Yeah, it was very helpful. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you, everyone. So Ahmed, if people want to follow you, if you can share your, so you have a great social media channels, so you can put a few words about them, and you can also put the links on the chat.
Yeah,
what is your main platform that people can get some content?
Yeah, so I would say two. If you want to get in touch with me, Instagram is the best in terms of like getting in touch. If you have any questions, if you need any advice and those sort of things. And in terms of my content, YouTube is the best for my content. So I put both the links in the chat for my Instagram and for my YouTube. So use the YouTube for educational purposes, use Instagram for contacting me, or if you're traditional, I'll check in my email. So you can just, go email and forget all the social media stuff and just do it that way.
Like
so
yeah. And if you want to contact the team at Lendlord, so you can use this chat box, and we usually try to reply quite quickly, but not all the time, so we're trying. So you can put, and if you have some issues, or if you want to learn more, or if you have any suggestions about new features, we always want to hear. And also you can book a demo with our team. And yeah, so good luck for everyone, and really thanks for joining. And Ahmed, really appreciate your presence here. It was very helpful. I learned a lot as well, so thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so thanks everyone, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.